TikTok back in court today for a key hearing. The Chinese social media company seeking to block a law that could ban the app in the U.S. If the ban were to go into effect, it could impact more than just the users, potentially benefiting other social media names and hitting advertisers. Here to talk about this and more, we want to bring in Rachel Tippegrath, as she is the CEO of MikMak, and that is an e-commerce analytics platform. We also want to bring in Rohit Kulkarni, Managing Director of Roth Capital Partners. It's great to have both of you. Rohit, let me start with you. I guess for investors out there, they're trying to figure out the odds that TikTok prevails in the DC circuit and then ultimately what that would mean for the broader sector. What's your early reading on that?
I think the odds of a disruption in TikTok, again, whether it gets banned, whether it gets sold, or this is a prolonged kind of path of pain for TikTok, the odds of either of those three things are rising, in my opinion. The way I would portray that is you look at Snapchat stock or you look at Facebook stock, there is an implied probability there that TikTok disruption is more likely than not in the next 4 months. And I feel that could manifest into either a complete sale, complete ban, or somewhere in between, which could still mean that eyeballs and money move away from TikTok.
And Rachel, give us your perspective, because on your platform, MikMak, I know that you have a lot of insight into e-commerce trends and the degree to which a lot of the huge tickers that we talk about all the time here at Yahoo Finance could potentially be negatively impacted if there was a disruption to TikTok. What are you seeing in the data on your end about the potential impact to some of these e-commerce big box retailers?
Yeah, so our data actually indicates the opposite. We've seen a 60% year-over-year growth in TikTok traffic. On any given day at MikMak, TikTok is our second most trafficked channel, Meta being number one. Brands love TikTok. It has the power of television in terms of its ability to capture mindshare with an algorithm that supercharges conversion that acts a lot like Amazon. TikTok has become a household name in advertising, and brands don't seem to be scared about a ban at all. They continue to invest.
So Rachel, if brands are continuing to invest that are kind of the bigger box brands here, do you have any information about maybe some of these smaller mid-sized businesses and how this could potentially impact their bottom lines? I think about the degree to which I at least see a lot of those smaller mid-sized retailers on my For You page and how they could be impacted moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. If a ban were to occur, the brands that would be most impacted are the small, medium businesses. Why? Because TikTok is one of the last places on the internet where organic content can reign. In all the other platforms, it's a pay-to-play environment. And so if you're an up-and-coming brand or retailer, TikTok is a place where you can get traction with just your blood, sweat, and tears. And so if you look at that opportunity married with TikTok shops, which is really becoming one of the fastest growing marketplaces worldwide and including the US, it would be a real detriment to the small, medium businesses if TikTok were to go away.
Rohit, how much of this has already been priced into some of the competitors when you take a look at Snapchat and Meta, going back to your previous comment there? And then if not, I guess in the long term, how big of a catalyst do you then see this being to some of these names?
I think it is still very early days. I wouldn't say it is priced in anywhere close to the levels that there is clear certainty as to what the future holds for TikTok. I think all I would say is it's rising in a way that people are increasingly focused that this is a bipartisan issue, there is a political will, and there is something for either of the parties to get something done in the first month in office, no matter who wins in November. So that's one part of thinking that Wall Street is having right now. And the second is how that unfolds is going to be just a long process. It may not happen in January. It could just be drawn out for a very long time. And the longer the period, the more it benefits for a large company like Facebook, where there would be just a slow bleed away from people investing in TikTok. We have already heard some sellers on Amazon who were these exact small businesses who were trying to create content on TikTok because Facebook was getting too expensive. So those people who are right now trying to cut costs, they would be the first people to slowly go away from TikTok and go into existing channels. So that's how I think it would unfold. It won't be a one single turn off the tap and that's the next day everything moves over to Instagram and Snapchat. But the slow bleed helps Facebook a lot more, and then Snapchat. Those two platforms would be the most to own. And one more thing I would point out is perhaps like even 10% move to Snapchat helps Snapchat by almost more than 25% of their revenue. So that whereas if 50% of TikTok moves to Facebook, it is just 3% of their revenue. So the asymmetric benefit to a smaller company like Snapchat would be much higher than a lot of proportion going to Facebook.
You know, Rohit, I'm curious as an analyst, how are you factoring in the election, the uncertainty surrounding that, ultimately the impact that is going to have on this case? Are you factoring that into your estimates, and I guess how so?
Hard to factor that in. The only way we would factor that in is through duration. I think duration is going to be longer term than having something happen in first half of next year. We'll see indications of what the next step could be in January or February, and then I think both sides will probably play the longer game, and longer it starts to linger. As I said, it helps U.S. companies like Facebook, like Snapchat.
Yeah, Rohit, what strikes me is that it's certainly popular as a bipartisan issue, but I don't know how popular this is amongst voters. And Rachel, I wonder if you can give us some insight into that, because you see the degree of traffic that is being driven on TikTok. What does that tell you about consumer interest, one might even say obsession, with this social media platform?
Yeah, TikTok would never come out and say this, but I think we all know this as users. TikTok is addicting. It keeps you in the app. It has the greatest time spent in terms of social platforms. It now layers in conversion with TikTok shops. And Pew Research recently came out with a study where users of TikTok, they don't think a ban's going to happen, and they don't seem to care either. In terms of what platforms are going to benefit, from an advertising standpoint, in an election year, brands really care a lot about brand safety. So we actually don't think it's like Meta or Snap that benefit, but really it's opportunities like Pinterest, where you can be much more in control because it's not a conversational platform. So there's a lot of different ways to slice and dice who's going to gain an opportunity against a backdrop of a TikTok ban and an election year.
Yeah, Rohit, feel free to chime in. I'm hearing the sounds of agreement over the speaker here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree with you, Rachel, in terms of what brands would think when it comes to brand safety and all the noise and controversy and censorship that we are hearing or coming out of Facebook. But having said that, I think the engagement and eyeballs that lie with Instagram are something that you cannot question. It's almost like nobody's going to get fired to hire IBM in the 80s and 90s. It's almost a condition of that, where if you're a small brand or if you're an up-and-coming growth agency, if you have some money lying under your cushion because TikTok is probably going to go away, what would you do? Would you experiment that with a very tiny platform like Pinterest because of the safety that they have perceived, or let's just throw that money in something that works, and perhaps this will work as well. So I think that's where most of our conversations with agencies kind of land into, where let's go to the safest bet out there. I won't get fired in 6 months. Maybe TikTok stays around, and we can revert and see what happens at that point. So that's how I feel. Things could unfold, and eventually those roads lead to a larger company like a Facebook, maybe even Amazon, if there is social commerce that is kind of starting to emerge in a more constructive manner there.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, but sounds like the audience of consumers is going to keep using the app in the meantime, regardless. Thank you both so much for joining us. Rachel Tippergraf, MikMak CEO, and we also had Rohit Kulkarni, Managing Director at Roth Capital Partners. Thank you.